Hello, everyone. This is your faithful Amanda Splatts. No politics today. Like, no politics, period, in the desert. But I feel like this is the time of year where I kind of need to specify that. And that's why I'm just, nothing too tricky or too hard this time around, man. I'm just doing what I like and what I love. And I have told people before, I am not a streamer. I'm a writer and I'm a singer. Streaming was just an outlet for that. I go back, as always, to Bray Wyatt, the late Kendall Windham. As I've gotten the question, why are you doing this as a VTuber? Bray Wyatt. He did some amazing horror stuff, some really good, creepy psychological horror stuff. But he's a pro wrestler, and it was done through the filter of professional wrestling. So it's doing what you love in the medium that chose you. And it's because of that I wanted to go ahead and I think part of it is the brainworms too. Being worried about not being able to run a whole bunch of games that I could collab with other people with. But we make do, man. We make do, and this is what I can do, and this is what I love to do, and what I came to do. But before we get to that, before we get to the actual writing, I have no timetable on how long we're going to go today. We're going to go until I feel like we're at a good stopping point. Might not finish a story today, but I do have an idea of what kind of story I have in mind. And I do have a general idea of the layout, but it's always fun to... I'll see if anyone stops by today, because it's 8 a.m. on a Wednesday. It's a weird time, I understand that. This will probably be mostly for VOD Gang. Now, I'm trying to figure out where to upload the stories to. I have a DA account. I created a DeviantArt account solely to try out their AI generator. Not worth it. I personally felt like the DeviantArt AI generator is not worth it. But I thought about Archive of Our Own, but I know that site is, I think it's mostly for fan fiction, not original stuff. So I'm still looking. I don't want to have to get like a Wattpad or something. Maybe I'll just upload text files to Pastub or something, but I do have the story of my working on my origin, the most general shades of my origin. Although now, the story I want to write today about me meeting Sandruby, my E, I hope to fill in some of the gaps and actually give a definitive full origin story of the night that I was run over. Because I am a roadkill VTuber. But before we get to that, on a more positive note, last night's karaoke was a blazing success in many, many different ways, man. I got 39 CCV. 39 concurrent views, man. For like a minute. Like either I was rated into something or YouTube was testing me to see if I was a bot account or something, forwarding a lot of people to me. But I hope at least one of those people stayed around and liked what I was putting down. That kind of blew my mind. But even more interesting, it's 3D, it's possible again. You look at me in the corner right now. I know this type of writing stream is second screen content, and I'm cool with that. That's awesome. Because I'm just going to be typing a lot. But look at the corner briefly, and you'll see 3D is feasible now. In fact, I'll go ahead and type a little bit for you. Watch my fingers. Blows my mind, man. Blows my fucking mind. The problem was I have a potato PC, and this potato PC could not. I was using VC face, and the potato PC could not run VC face. The great thing is, though, I use the program that Grub Handler uses now, V Magic Mirror. It uses so much. There's so fewer resources that my potato PC can actually run it. I was able to do full karaoke last night. I think part of it is it doesn't use. You don't have to use the webcam for it. Like, it moves your mouth with the microphone, with what you're saying, what you're talking, and it moves the head accordingly. And my hand moves due to the mouse, and my typing moves due to the keystrokes. I kind of want to test the gamepad version when I did Buckshot Roulette with Kara later today. But if I remember correctly, gamepad use for Buckshot Roulette's a little wonky. Plus, I'm going to try running it in OpenGL, which is going to make it look a little wonky too, but it's for graphical purposes. It can be pretty graphically intensive. Good news is, though, since I'll be streaming with Kara, I won't have to have a 3D or anything going, or a 2D or a chibi. I will have what's called a Fugi. It's a website you use if you're on Discord. You can upload your avatar to the Fugi, and when you open it up, when you open up a chat, when you open up a call in Discord, it shows the avatars of everyone who's in that call or in that group chat. It's very nice. Bottoms up, chat. Now, the Magic Mirror has hand tracking too, but I'm not gonna, unless it's like karaoke, a stream where my body and my movements are gonna be the actual focus of everything. I don't think it's gonna be that important that I use the webcam. So if I'm just in the tiny little corner right now, like I am, moving my head and moving everything with my mouth and the microphone movements, I think that's fine. You get the effect. You get the effect that you're hanging out with Amanda Splatts as she tries to get creative. Like I said, no politics, just writing today. I can go pretty long today if I want to, but we'll go as long or as short as the muse takes me. So I'm just gonna pop out chat for my own purposes. Yeah, you look at my first stream ever, and you look at this, so much more professional, man. In my personal opinion, a lot more professional. And that's what I want to do. I want to grow. I want to evolve as a VTuber. I will do some of the Noomber baiting. I'll admit, Buckshot Roulette multiplayer today is kind of Noomber baiting, but also because you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and break character a little bit. Last week I was collabing as Sandruby with Cara Malone, doing Keep Talking No One Explodes. And about an hour or so in, I felt really sick, like I was gonna throw up. So I toughed it out, and luckily Kara got into yap mode as she did. The yap is the most important, most entertaining part of a Kara Malone stream. Went into yap mode, and that was able to cover for me while I went ahead and got sick. So today is not only about the Noombers, but it's also kind of a do-over. And I'm happy that even after last week, Kara's willing to go ahead and put down some time for me this week too. And after that, I might Zatsu. Not Zatsu. I might, it depends on how long. Oh no, the collab's at 4. go till 6 or 7 maybe. And I do have work tomorrow. Like, I took a couple days off just to write and just to be creative, not deal with politics or the news or anything. I took a couple days off of work, but I do have to go back to work tomorrow. I bought like 3 or 4 new games because they're only $5 each. Like the holiday deals are starting to kick in. I got some great fucking deals. I got Guilty Gear R, the final 2D Guilty Gear for like $4. I got the Castlevania DLC for Vampire Survivors for like $4, and that has like 40 characters in it. I got a whole bunch of deals, man. So I may Gorilla tomorrow. I may Gorilla Friday, just to test out the rig and test out a couple of these games. Hold on. Just thinking about my breakfast. Shit, that'll wake you up. Breakfast here in the desert. Just jalapeno poppers. Cooked in the air fryer. No oil, just popper. Not the healthiest thing, but I figured the jalapenos would help wake me up. And I got my last can of Oasis Vibe Sparkling Prickly Pear Lime. It's Sandruby's favorite drink. And she left the can before she left. Or, you know, at least I thought she left. But I guess when you're a god, you never really leave, right? So, just letting this go down the trail a moment. And we'll go ahead and get started. I have a general... Usually when I do these writing streams, I don't have anything. Today I have kind of a general outline. You just need to flesh it out. And I will be kind of referencing a thread that Sandruby Ma'i, which is the Navajo word for coyote, posted on my Twitter. How she met me. So we've done one stream about that night. We've done one stream about the origins of Sandruby. Now today, we're gonna go ahead and bring it all together. And go ahead and get a nice, detailed, no unreliable narrator account of the night it happened. Ooh. Like, they have a kick, man. These poppers. They have a kick. You think the cream cheese... I think the cream cheese is kind of helping to tone down the kick a little bit, but I don't need any fucking coffee this morning, man. Oh, God. I like to do this when I write. Like, I like to just get everything ready, get nice and comfy, get some of my favorite stuff together. I like to do it as early in the morning as possible. Because even when it's just me in my motel, quote-unquote, studio apartment, I seem to be more creative in the dark. Just focusing on the screen, focusing on everything, and I don't know what it is, man. I don't know what it is. But we will... Like, we may or may not actually get a full story done today. But it may go a little faster than usual because I have a general idea. And I've noticed this in my pre-Amanda writings. I have a general idea. I outline something. I kind of quote-unquote storyboard it. But in the process of writing it, it changes. Oh, we are gonna we're gonna go over the night it happened. And yeah, and I always like to start with a good first sentence. Something that will grip people, pull them in, and give them a good idea of what to expect. Like, even if I eventually want to like throw somebody off of my work and throw off what they can expect or surprise them, I want that first line to be give them an idea of what they can expect. I gotta be careful. I'm gonna run out of drink. I mean, I could just run to the fridge and grab a Dr. Pepper, like whenever I want. These streams not as creative or original. I mean, like, they're not as strict or structured as my usual stuff. I'm just spitballing ideas to myself and seeing if anyone stops by. Mhm. Okay, so we're gonna give an account of what happened that night. No unreliable narrators, no questions, no uncertainty, just what happened that night. What would you, as a casual observer, have noticed that night that I was run over by the Isekai truck? What would you have noticed? Hmm. I mean, other than obviously the explosion of the truck. Think about the five senses. Wouldn't you? What would you have heard? Well, I was initially a coyote. So, yeah, sound. Sound sounds like a good place to start. What's the term for a good term for like given background to or given atmosphere to or something? What's a good term for that? The desert wind. Maybe not start with the desert wind. I always like to say out anything I write, just to make sure it sounds good. Like, you can get away with some stuff in the written language that doesn't sound that good saying it out loud, but I always like to run it by myself. Screeching sounds of coyote cutting out against the desert wind. I don't think we need to describe the sound. I think that works fine. The screeching sounds of a coyote against the desert, a dying coyote. I'll give it a little more kick. The screeching sounds of dying coyote against the desert wind weren't an unusual thing to hear in the middle of the night. The desert was awash in coyotes, and even they had their predators. It's when the scream slowly, ever so slowly. It's when the scream. That's not necessary. It's when the screams ever so slowly changed just a little too mundane. Shifted. It's when the screams ever so slowly shifted into that of a human being screaming in pain. That's when the casual listener would have taken notice. And that night, somebody did take notice. Okay, so as a casual observer, you hear the coyote and you hear someone screaming. What would you have seen at that moment? A little bit of a spoiler. I kind of want to keep what happened to the isekai truck vague, because I want to go ahead and potentially slot something in there in the future. So that night, somebody did take notice. And if they hadn't, the deafening explosion would have sealed the deal. Because, like I said, I want to keep what happened to the truck and why it exploded vague. Because you're supposed to think that it hit something, maybe capsized or turned over or something. But it's the middle of a desert road. There's nothing to crash into, like except maybe like a telephone pole or something. And if this is the isekai truck that can warp people to other worlds, it's got to be something more powerful than that. So we're gonna keep it vague for now. What happened to the truck, or the driver, or if there is anyone driving? The isekai truck is just kind of it's gonna be a dumb fucking thing to say, but the isekai truck is just kind of a vehicle, anyways. No. The isekai truck is just kind of a vehicle to bring into what changed Amanda. I think that was more of a holdover for when I wanted to do this, the humor character. But I have, and I've admitted this before, I have a pretty bad case of last act syndrome, where even stuff that was supposed to be funny ends up getting serious and dark. So we might as well just go ahead and start that place with Amanda. Because if things got bad and got dark, then they can only kind of go up from there. With her finding flavor and everything. I also kind of want to keep it vague, Because it goes with like a little thing I wrote about Cara Malone. Maybe with Kara's permission, I could work her into Amanda's origin story. Because there was a little thing I wrote about Malone where the cosmic caramel of entropy slammed into the earth and made shockwaves around and started flavor revolutions. Flavor reverb. I really do prefer flavor reverb. So I still haven't talked to Car about that. Might bring it up after Buckshot Roulette. I don't know. But I want to keep that open in case Kara wants to be like, it's possible that it was Kara slamming into the planet, becoming the cosmic. But then no, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. Because this happened 12 years ago, like 11, 12 years ago. So that wouldn't even work. Because Amanda was wandering the desert for like 11 or 12 years. So no, that wouldn't work. So let's scrap that. But we're going to go ahead and keep it vague. We're going to keep it vague. So the truck is on fire. The truck is on fire. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a little trigger warning. There's going to be gore in this. I'm playing up to my 90s anime aesthetic, 90s OVA and stuff. I don't want to shy away from gore or bad situations. Because my vision of Amanda Splatts is a 90s OVA gritty reboot of the original 80s design. A massive white semi-truck engulfed in flames in the middle of the road, illuminated. A long crimson smear. A massive white semi-truck engulfed in flames in the middle of the road, illuminated a long crimson smear. The coyote must have been ground under its wheels like so much roadkill before it. This isn't uncommon. Man treads where he treads. And yet it treads, because tire treads. A massive white semi-truck engulfed in flames in the middle of the road, illuminated a long crimson smear. The coyote must have been ground under its wheels like so much roadkill before it. This isn't uncommon. Man treads where he treads. But along that stain, the color and viscosity, the viscera itself changed. It would have taken an expert to diagnose isn't the right word. To determine the difference, but at some point the stains became more human. And of those being human, parentheses, question mark. The most human. It wouldn't take an expert to determine the difference, but at some point, stains became more human. The most human of those being the human, question mark, dragging herself naked by her hands and arms across that long desert highway into a ditch. I don't know. It's a little hard to describe what I'm thinking. If anyone has ever seen Sweet Home, the video game, the NES game, and the movie tie-in that were a precursor to Resident Evil, that's where I got the idea for Amanda's physical state when she entered this world. Just crawling on her. It's like you're in a trench and you're crawling on your hands and knees, but not your knees. Like dragging herself across the desert. Tits scraping against the ground and everything. Although Amanda is supposed to be flat-chested. Amanda's supposed to be androgynous, but I think I've told this story before. So I'll just do a short version. I'm supposed to be androgynous, but when I started genning artwork of myself, I found that it just straight up looked better as a woman. It looked better with tits. So this is what you see before you, man. Into a ditch. I was thinking of continuing to refer to her as a human question mark throughout the piece, but I feel like that would be like a little too pretentious. Just a little too pretentious. So, the most human of those. Now, I'm not calling her Amanda yet, because she doesn't have the name Amanda yet. She got the name Amanda from one of the paramedics. I don't like the autofill. Like, I know it's supposed to save you a couple seconds of typing, but I don't like when that shit autofills when I'm gonna type. It just annoys me for some fucking reason. Towering Inferno, that was once an isekai truck. Illuminated. Towering Inferno, that was once an isekai truck, illuminated the desert, giving a backlight to the woman dragging herself. Raw and eating deep into the desert, for she knew not what. Towering inferno that was once an isekai truck illuminated the desert, giving it backlight to the woman dragging herself, raw and bleeding. Deeper. Deeper would sound better than deep. Towering inferno that was once an isekai truck. Let me know if the fan is annoying you. Like, I put up Sandruby's BGM because it kind of, I'll totally like to mask the fan and my eating and drinking. The fan, I use the microphone in the laptop, so I put the fan behind the laptop. Hopefully, it won't pick it up. But if it does, let me know. I've set all my windows in OBS and everything so I can see everything at once, like my mic level and the chat and open office. Like, fuck Microsoft forcing you to buy Office. Subscribe to that shit when you used to get it free or for one payment. I use Open Office from now on, and I will only use Open Office and Notepad because that's free. Check it out. Open Office. One word. Open Office. It is an amazing project. Please check it out. Towering inferno that was once an isekai truck illuminated the desert, giving a backlight to the woman dragging herself, raw and bleeding, deeper into the desert towards she knew not what, but away from what was now and forever where it happened. I have a problem with run-on sentences. Or rather long sentences. I guess I feel that they give a little more emphasis to something, kind of help paint a picture. But like I'm not Hemingway. I'm not writing a bunch of short, muscular sentences. I'm trying to add a little bit of prose to it, but not a whole lot. Deeper in the desert towards she knew not what, but away from what was now and forever where it happened. Because we established that in episode 1 of Desert Chronicle, that where it happened is where I got run over. And the isekai truck was still burning for a while, and was still burning into my debut 12 years later. Like the background noise I got to hide the fan during my debut was crackling fire, and that was supposed to be the isekai truck. So, whatever happened, it was in flames for a good 12 or so years. Where it happened. A long stretch of desert road. Used mainly by lost tourists. Desert roads owned by lost tourists, isekai trucks, and the occasional. What's a good thing that you might haul through the desert on a truck? Something good you might haul through a desert on a truck. Like maybe steel beams or something? Steel rebar? Maybe a refrigerator truck or something. A tanker full of something. And the occasional tanker full of and the occasional tanker full of redacted. Add a little more mystery for a future story. And that might play into why it exploded. Long stretch of desert road used mainly by lost tourists, isekai trucks, and the occasional tanker full of redacted. They saw nearly 12 years after the incident, but still burned. Only stopped recently. Mold. Is it SMOE? Let's find out. SMOL. I think Smolder SMOU is like English, like British English or something. I'm not sure. A place where nearly 12 years after the incident, the truck still burned and only stopped smoldering recently. Because in Desert Chronicle, I think Desert Chronicle is going to be canon. And Desert Chronicle, it had stopped. So sometime between between my debut and Desert Chronicle, the fire stopped. Which may be symbolic. There may be a lot of things in this story that are symbolic. Maybe something did happen 12 years ago. The truck still burned and only stopped smoldering recently. But tonight it lit up the desert sky like... I want whatever I want to describe the desert sky. Like the 4th. Like the 4th. People will get that. That it lit up the desert sky like the 4th. Liberating a broken soul. She wasn't demanded back then. Thanks. I've been spelling solace wrong all these years. That's cool. It's always cool when you learn something. Things are going to get dark and brutal and gruesome, so I do want to give a little bit of hope. Other than the fact that I am the one writing it. She wasn't demanded back then. She wouldn't get that name until the paramedics eventually found her. So take solace that the story has a happy ending. I want to go ahead and explain the origin of how I met Sandruby. But that's all I want to explain. I want to add a couple mysteries. To explore in future stories with future characters. Because I will go ahead and spoil the plot a little bit now. Part of the reason I'm calling this the Amanda Splatts project is because I want to incorporate other characters into it. When I wrote back in the day, and when I RP'd ages ago over text, I would make sure to populate my stories with multiple colorful, interesting characters. The plot usually suffered because of it, though. I was not concerned or too interested with the plot as much as cool characters. And that's, I think, one of the reasons I started gravitating towards wrestling games. Because you could create as many cool characters as you wanted. That's why I'm waiting for Fire Pro to go on sale. Not one of the reasons I'm waiting for Fire Pro to go on sale, but I have other plans when that finally happens. But I got stuff to do until then. Like I got Death's Hangover for under $5. Got Guilty Gear Accent Core Double XR for $5. That's $5. I got a lot of huge deals to work on in the meantime. She wouldn't get that name till the paramedics eventually found, so it takes all the with a happy ending. So let's just refer to her as a woman dragging her now human form with now useless crushed She wasn't meant, so let's just refer to her as the woman. Because I've said before, I don't care what pronouns you use, just don't be a dick. I am a male VA voicing a female character, so I don't care if it's he, him, or she, her. Either or is fine. So let's just refer to her as the woman. The woman dragging her now human form with a now useless crushed lower body behind it, like an oversized. I don't know if oversized beaver tail. That'd be a little cracked. I warned you it was gonna get gruesome because I want to go ahead and explore the whole roadkill aspect, but then I really don't want to touch on it anymore. I wanted to keep that original aspect of the character to honor whoever was the original person who created the character and the idea, and then move on. So let's just refer to her as the woman. The woman dragging her now human form with her now useless crushed lower body behind it, like an oversized beaver tail. Must it have been like? I actually thought about trying to claw or drag myself around like that, see what it was like. I just don't have enough room here in my studio apartment. And I thought about doing it outside the apartment, but there's my neighbors don't clean up. Some of my neighbors don't clean up their dog shit. So it's just when they go for a while without mowing the grass, like I don't even walk barefoot outside because there's just so much dog shit everywhere hidden in the tall grass. It's fucked up. Please clean up after your fucking dog, okay? Or other outdoor pet, please. Fucking please. Children play in that shit. Literally. It'd be like to have to drag yourself just using your hands face down across a desert. What kind of things would you face? buzzards swarm. No, the buzzards wouldn't swarm you. I always wonder if there's apostrophe. She wasn't Amanda back then. She wouldn't get that name until the paramedics eventually found her. So take solace that the story has a happy ending. So let's just refer to her as the woman. The woman dragging her now human form with her now useless crushed lower body behind it like an oversized beaver tail. Forced in her dying agony to make decisions about whether to veer left or right to avoid impossible rocks or awaken sleeping rattlers. To avoid awakening. That's one of the things that kills me when I write. Like, I have to force myself to stop to check like context and everything. I could do it when I'm done afterwards, going over the whole piece, but my brain doesn't work that way. I have to check it like every paragraph. Having to veer left, right to avoid impassable rocks or awaken sleeping rattlers. The buzzards weren't a problem. They were busy gorging themselves on what the woman had left behind on the pavement, dining by firelight like campers gorging themselves on s'mores. I ruined s'mores for you. You're welcome. That's a joke. Nobody can ruin s'mores. S'mores are absolutely perfect. We get she needs to leave, and initially needs to find her way to the cave. This desolate area of the desert, far removed from where it happened, became where she suffered. where that became where she suffered. A stretch of bloody desert sand bridging the site of the incident. Not site, it's site, S-I-T, site. Bridging the site of the incident to that damned contemptible cave. IBLE, contemptible. Because we all know what's in that cave. I'm gonna go into more effort, so I will go ahead and break this up and make this the next paragraph. This desolate area of the desert, far removed from where it happened, became where she suffered. A stretch of bloody desert sand bridging the site of the incident to that damned contemptible cave. A cave the locals either knew to stay far away from or made pilgrimages to regularly. The woman having been in that cave until she was run over. Is it lie or lay? What lay? I think lie is. Lay sounds a little more artistic. This desolate area of the desert, far removed from where it happened, became where she suffered. A stretch of bloody... I don't know how to say bloody desert sand, it's bloody sand. A stretch of bloody sand bridging the site of the incident to that damned, contemptible cave. A cave the locals either knew to stay far away from or made pilgrimages to regularly. The woman, having been a coyote until she was run over, knew of what lay in that cave. But the fear of the unknown took a backseat to agonizing pangs of being given new life, only to have it immediately ripped away from you again and again and again. Something the isekai truck did to her was keeping her alive. Damn, that's all I'm thinking about. Like, they weren't too hot. That's what I was worried about, that they were going to be too hot and just distract me with my mouth fucking burning. But they were good. But the fear of the unknown, stay over or made pilgrimages too regular. Part of the reason that Sandruby's last stream was reading Call of Cthulhu, not only because it was Halloween, also because I want to kind of lean a little bit into Lovecraft. Not too much, but I do know Lovecraft. I have the complete fiction by H.P. Lovecraft. Call of Cthulhu, Mountains of Madness, Dunwich Horror, Colorado Space. So I know Lovecraft and that type of horror. And that'll also help me write, because the great thing about a lot of Lovecraft's horror is that a lot of it is vague. Because your mind fills in the horrible gaps. Like, what is that blue flame? But fear the unknown pilgrimages too regularly. The woman, having been a coyote until she was run over, knew of what lay in that cave. But the fear of the unknown took a backseat to the agonizing pangs of being given new life, only to have it immediately ripped away from you again and again and again. That true girl's gotta have some powers, doesn't she? Something the isekai truck did to her was keeping her alive, if you could call it living. She was autonomous. She moved of her own volition. I feel like that's redundant. She was autonomous. She was mobile. And she slumped helplessly in front of a large cave-like outcropping of stones lit only from the inside by a flame shade of an unnatural blue. Faint outline of that figure not obscuring the blue light would have evoked fear and hatred in some of the locals, and wails of maddening rapture in others. I don't use God like a capital G, because that kind of implies like the God. I'm using like more the Japanese term God, like a God, like multiple gods. A spirit, a god, to be sure. Uh, the creature you know is Sandruby, the form you're most familiar with. Um, that is Amanda's form. Taking traits of Amanda's form. Yeah. The actual, like, there's not supposed to be a real form, or if it is, I haven't defined it yet. Um, but as far as what could be her real form, consider the picture that was used for the reading of Call of Cthulhu. Uh, Wiry, muscular, kind of androgynous male, female, the coyote mask. Just tooling with a couple things with the 3D. The hand was starting to get a little awkward looking. When I was typing, I noticed the hands were just a little bit awkward, probably because the model is 6'6". I mean, it shouldn't have been too noticeable in the corner of the screen, but it does. Not light, muscular, lithe, Lithe. I think that's autocorrect. I hate autocorrect. I try to disable it whenever possible. The faint outline of that figure now obscuring the blue light would have evoked fear and hatred in some of the locals, and wails and maddening rapture in others. A spirit, a god, to be sure. Coyote god, judging from the crude mask it wore. Androgynous in form, muscular and lithe, silver hair cascading down its back, and a wooden coyote mask obscuring its face. Androgynous in form, muscular and lithe, the silver hair cascading down its back and the wooden coyote mask obscuring its face. A mask the god removed just to get a closer look at the woman, kneeling down above her son's been over her. Kneeling down above her, yet still towering over her at her position on the dirt. Got the page. Go ahead and save. Documents. I wonder why Viva VVVV ended up having its own file. That's weird. Oh, so it hasn't been too long since. Sometimes I forget I turned the number lock off. I can ODT document. Save early, save often, man. Save early, save often. God recognized the woman. Of course, the god will recognize one of its own subjects, even in this new form. Enraged, the god initiative. I just had fucking inspiration for something later in the story. I hope I remember it when I get to it. Hold on, I'll just share a little bit. I get comfortable writing in one position, but gaming in a different position, and I also have to remember that since I'm using the microphone in my laptop, where I sit, how I'm positioned, that does affect the closeness of the mic and my own sound levels. The god recognized the woman. Of course, the god would recognize one of its own subjects even in this new form. A new form that enraged the god initially. The coyote was perfect and flawless form. How could one just discard it so easily? But how, as in why, gave way to how, as in how. As in what sorcery, what technology, what methods could turn a coyote into half a woman? Right? How could you do this? That's what I wanted to play on that with that sentence. How could you do this? Is a question like what motivated you? Why did you do it? As opposed to how could you do this also means what methods, what technology could you use? That phrase, how could you do this, could mean both things. But hows and why gave way to hows and how, as in what sorcery, what technology, what methods could turn a coyote into half a woman. The woman was screaming in pain, deafened to the casual observer by the truck smoldering in the distance. It didn't seem that this was intentional. How could something like this happen? And could she somehow reverse engineer it? I'll leave that a little vague, but kind of implying that she wants to turn people into coyotes. Ma'i. Ma'i, the Navajo word for coyote. That's Sandruby. Ma'i, the coyote god people would come to know as Sandruby, was a little more brutal and open than most of her trickster kind. She didn't need to. Ma'i, the coyote god people would come to know as Sandruby was a little more brutal and open than most of her trickster kind. She didn't need to deceive the woman in her. Oh, I forgot to get. She didn't need to deceive the woman in her pain, in her agony, in her desperation. Mai just came out and said it. You interest me. Promise your soul to me, and I'll make sure you live through whatever the humans did to you. Refuse, and I'll leave you. Deal? Mai was bluffing, the trickster in her serving that purpose far better than simply lying to the woman. It didn't know if it was human that did this to her, but Mai was a gambler and liked to play the odds. The woman screaming a good little paragraph. Mai was bluffing, the trickster in her serving that purpose far better than simply lying to the woman. It didn't know if it was a human that did it to her. Mai was a gambler and liked to play the odds. The woman, screaming in pain to the point of madness, agreed. Under duress, as any court in the world could argue. Under duress, as any court in the world could argue. But this was the house of Mai. And so, removing its mask, the coyote god sang. So, removing its mask, the coyote god sang. Its song resonating through the desert, causing all coyotes to cry out at once. I was gonna say at once, but I kind of like as one. In perfect unison. its song resonating throughout the desert, causing all coyotes to cry out as one in perfect unison. I kind of like that imagery. It's gonna be a weird fucking reference, but it reminds me of the end of the movie The Lawnmower Man, where the cry of his birth was every single phone in the world ringing in unison. The birth of Amanda Splatts, whose song was Through the Desert. All coyotes cried out as one in perfect unison. Now we're gonna get to something. I don't think I'm gonna explain it. I'm not gonna explain it. I'm gonna leave it for a future chapter. I'm just gonna go ahead and put it down on paper, quote unquote. Leave it for a future chapter. If you were there, you know. If you saw the stream that did not exist, you know. Wanted a nice sharp contrast and maybe just a tiny bit of levity after what had happened. I'm trying not to be so dark. I'm trying not to be so dark. And so, removing its mask, the coyote god sang, its song resonating throughout the desert, causing all coyotes to cry out as one in perfect unison. This roused the attention of the Night Watch, a cluster of soldiers who patrolled the desert, its own army or militia of sorts. Well, they called themselves an army. The Desert Army. Clad in crimson red outfits reminiscent of a bygone era, a few soldiers made their way to Ma'i's cave, led by a bouncy figure with curly blonde locks and a rattling saber. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. This roused the attention of the Night Watch, a cluster of soldiers who patrolled the desert. Its own army or militia of sorts. Well, they called themselves an army. The Desert Army, clad in crimson red outfits reminiscent of the bygone era. Few soldiers made their way to Ma'i's cave, led by a bouncy figure with curly blonde locks and a Raptor saber. The blonde woman, a general by the ornate stars on her shoulders, knelt down immediately next to him in front of the now vacant cave. How do you spell that? I'm still not sure how you spell that. I'll have to look it up. I don't like opening extra Brave windows. I don't like opening up extra Brave windows. We've detected audio in your stream belonging to someone else. Your audio. Well, that's not going to be a problem because the audio is public domain. I got it from Pixabay. I've used it. I actually use it in my last run, but in case it gets dinged incorrectly, I do have my phone going. So that's how you spell it. General God Bowen Hasselpfeffer. That's how you spell dwelled, isn't it? Maybe the spell check on this might be. Yeah, just in case I am keeping an eye on the screen in case it cuts with the audio or whatever. Because I've used this before. In fact, I think I used this on the Sandruby Who is Sandruby stream. This very background. It's Pixabay, it's free use. General Beauregard House of Pfeffer, by the way, is a dish made with hair rapid. That's the joke. Checking. I hate to get going and then find out. Got dinged. General Beauregard Hassenpfeffer knew that the thing that dwelled in that cave, the thing neither she nor any of her soldiers had ever seen, was responsible for the cacophony of coyotes. It made sense to rush down with her sortie and see what had transpired. But as soon as she saw the unconscious woman, now no longer crushed and mangled, but merely weak and bony and pale, naked in the desert sand, naked face down in the desert sand. Naked face down in the desert sand, her MO changed. And I think it's through General Hassenpfeffer that we go ahead and do a little bit of exposition. I want to keep a lot of things vague in case I want to introduce other characters or fill in any plot holes or plot points, etc. But for now, I want to keep things vague. Naked as a jaybird, General Hasselbeck probably mused as a couple of medics attended to the woman, the soldiers making their way to the nearby Splatts reservation to rally the people. Naked in front of the cave of that bitch god of a vomit. She's gotta be one of those cultists. I'm sorry if I'm gonna be quiet for long stretches of time. I'm cooking now. I'm cooking. I know what I want to do for like the next page or so. So I'm sorry this may not be good content, but I'm really feeling inspired right now. Naked as a jaybird. General House of February Muse as a couple of medics attended to the woman. The soldiers making their way to the nearby Splatts reservation to rally the people. Naked in front of the cave of that bitch god of a vomit. She's gotta be one of the cultists. The five-star general tactician that she was missed critical information. But on the battlefield, you have to act on the intel you have. And maybe in the back of your general's mind, thoughts of denying Ma'i, another cultist, and reforming another one of those freaks on the edge of town, bubbled up. But first and foremost, there was a dying woman in the dirt, and the general of the Desert Army knew her priorities. So we got ahead and established some Lovecraftian type elements to this, that there is a cult that worships Ma'i. Now, I'm not going to go too much into what happened with Amanda afterwards, because that was covered early in an earlier writing stream. How eventually the Splatts reservation found her, came around to her, prayed over her, and while they were praying, although was it the Splatts reservation, or was it the cultists? Was it a group of cult? That might be something to explore for a future story chapter. That might be something to explore. Was it the Splatts reservation, or was it some cultists? Bothing us, people on the reservation. But also, that's where she got the name Amanda. When the paramedics arrived, one of them said, "What? A guy? A woman? You hear that voice? She's a man. Duh. A man. Duh." So her name became Amanda. But she wasn't Amanda. She didn't become Amanda until the paramedics arrived. And this will cut off before the paramedics arrived. That's something that can be looked at in another story. Another chapter, rather. The Desert Army medics did the best they could with their battlefield medicine, but knew someone as bruised, beaten up as the woman would need professional medical attention. And so as not to arouse suspicion of Mai's cultists, the people of the Splatts reservation were assembled. And as they prayed over the woman and called for proper medical attention, only General Hasselpepper turned her attention to, using the word attention twice, turned her gaze to the cave where the blue flame lingered. This mouse is a little wonky. I really should be using the touchpad. I really should be using the... I use the mouse because you need the mouse to move the model and turn the model around, but I really do prefer the touchpad. The Desert Army medics did as best they could with the battlefield that lingered. The Desert Army medics did as best they could with their battlefield medicine, but someone as bruised and beaten up as the woman would need professional medical attention. And so as not to arouse the suspicion of Mai's cultists, the people of the Splatts reservation were assembled. And as they prayed over the woman and called for proper medical attention, only General Hasselpfeffer turned her gaze to the cave where the blue flame lingered. Raising one arm and pointing a tip of her saber, wavering a bit in fear but still pointed with purpose, towards the blue flame whose origin she couldn't see, before turning her attention back at the people of the Splatts reservation. So there we go. We have gone ahead and bridged the gap between Amanda getting run over and becoming Amanda, with the paramedics calling her Amanda. We knew from the original story that the Splatts reservation found her body and helped heal her, prayed over her, and that's how she got the last name Splatts. But now we've gone ahead and bridged the gap and got the full story of what happened that night. How she clawed her corpse to Mai's cave. Mai took interest in her and basically took her soul. Or laid claim to her soul, rather. And then used General Hasselpfeffer, who's obviously antagonistic towards her. She used General Hasselpfeffer and the Desert Army to find this girl and fulfill her part of the contract. And now we do have a little bit of conflict between General Hasselpfeffer, who will probably appear in search of a future like, if you know where she came from, you know where she comes from. And Mai. And we also have established that it's a cult. She's the deity of the cult, for the lack of a better term. We're not quite done with her. I feel like I want to go back and just call it the cave with the blue flame instead of Ma'i's cave. But like between where it happened and where she suffered and freaks on the edge of town, etc., that maybe that might be a little too much. Maybe in the future I'll refer to it as the cave with the blue flame. We know it's Amanda's. We know it's Amanda, so I think we can go ahead and stop referring to her as the woman. So just go ahead and call her Amanda. Because Ma'i is not really the Native American coyote. Ma'i, that's where I got the name from, Navajo. Yeah. She is a perversion of that. Just as the desert is the perversion of the Mojave, she is a perversion of that god. And it's the cult. It's the Lovecraftian bent of what's normally a Native American story. And as the woman who would eventually become known as your faithful Amanda Splatts was carted off to safety, back in the desert, back at the cave with the blue flame. I don't need to say back at the desert if I'm saying back at the cave. And as the woman who would eventually become known as your faithful Amanda Splatts was carted off to safety, back at the cave with the blue flame, Ma'i knelt down over the gore and viscera left behind after Amanda's healing. The god dipped 2 fingers into Amanda's entrails, swirled them around in the dirt, removed her wooden coyote mask with a free hand, and smeared the gore down her center of her face in an obscure perversion of war paint. Just as she was an obscure perversion of... That's telling too much. Like, I want them to infer... I don't want to go ahead and at least right now and say that she's not really a coyote god. You're supposed to infer by the fact that she's got a cult, that she's smearing blood on her face, she's signing contracts and stuff. You're supposed to kind of infer that she's not what she says she is. The god dipped 2 fingers into Amanda's entrails, swirled them around in the dirt, removed her wooden coyote mask with a free hand, and smeared the gore down the center of her face in an obscure perversion of war paint. The ripped musculature gave way to a weak, pale, and bony frame, and the face that formed twisted itself into the visage of the woman who had just left her soul at Ma'i's feet. Make sure I spelled that right. Oh shit, I haven't saved it. Fuck, there we go. Hmm. I do want to establish that Ma'i doesn't give a fuck about General Hassan Pfeffer. Like, I'm sorry that the later part of these writing streams may not be as entertaining, because when I go, I get going. I just and it's hard for me to talk out the process because my brain just starts mapping out the next part of the story. And as a woman who would eventually become known as your faithful Amanda Splatts was carted off to safety. Back at the cave with the blue flame, Ma-E knelt down over the gore and viscera left behind after Amanda's healing. The god dipped 2 fingers into Amanda's entrails, swirled them around in the dirt, removed her wooden coyote mask with a free hand, and smeared the gore down the center of her face in an obscure perversion of war paint. The ripped musculature gave way to a weak and pale and bony frame, and the face formed and twisted itself to the visage of the woman who had just left her soul at Ma-E's feet. Just what is your game? Ma-E, human as she was now, was surprised by General FlaVR's statement as the general pointed her saber's tip at the god from the safe distance of a good 10 yards. FlaVR apostrophe S. For the good 10 yards. Ma-E turned her attention to the general only briefly, her lips turning up to a revolting, inhuman grin plastered on the face of the woman she just tricked the general into saving. Her attention turned to a small cluster of objects strewn about the naked god's feet. Small trinkets offered by her cultists, their offerings as random as their musings. A deck of cards interested her the most. Of all things to leave a god. My game. What is my game? Ma-E turned her revolting grin to the general, whose arm wavered a bit more as she made eye contact. Ma-E's ruby red eyes, the only difference from Amanda's yellow orbs. Blackjack. Fuck, what did I just open? Fuck. I hate this mouse. It was dirt cheap, but... It was dirt cheap, it was a generic mouse, but it just freaking wobbles and wibbles everywhere. Luckily, this 3D model is not that powerful. I mean, like, not that chunky. So even if I actually open up something else, I wonder how chunky it is as opposed to the Viato tube. Maybe I could start using this in the future. Cause I made my own 3D model in Vroid Studio, so maybe it's time to start using that. I'll have to ask Grub about it. Grub is the one who turned me onto the 3D model. Shout out to fucking Grub Handler, man. He's a good guy. He's a great guy. I think it's time to let Amanda back in. Just size by VRM. Lip sync, but still no track and face. Probably adjust again. Yes. There we go. So we have now... I wonder if a little epilogue. Because with this story, we have gone ahead and established everything that we needed to. How did Amanda survive? She survived because of the whims of the false god Ma-E, the one we'd come to know as Sandruby. How did she survive, and General FlaVR's role in the story as well. You'll see a little more of FlaVR in the future. What else? And what she wants. She's curious and interested in that. And this all happened 12 years ago. And I don't think we need to say that it was 12 years ago, but because this happened like within minutes of Amanda getting run over. Okay, so I think we're good. I think that's good for the story. I was gonna add a little epilogue about what happened after Halloween, after her reading the. Does anything more need to be said? I was gonna add a scene where she knocked over a bag of rubies with her foot at one of the offerings, and that's how she got the name Sandruby. But her eyes being ruby red, and those ruby red eyes being the only difference between her and Amanda's body, I think that says enough. I had a habit back in the day of saying too much and spelling out too much. And I think that's one of the reasons I was so drawn to Lovecraft's work. You have to intimate a lot from some of the descriptions he gives or does not give or leaves out. So I think we're good. Let's go over this one last time, start to finish, see how it reads. Screeching sounds of a dying coyote against the desert wind weren't an unusual thing to hear in the middle of the night. The desert was awash in coyotes, and even they had their predators. It's when the screams ever so slowly shifted to that human being screaming in pain. That's when the casual listener would have taken notice. And that night, somebody did take notice. And if they hadn't, the deafening explosion would have sealed the deal. A massive white semi-truck engulfed in flames in the middle of the road illuminated a long crimson smear. The coyote must have been ground under its wheels, like so much roadkill before it. This isn't uncommon. Man treads where he treads. But along that stain, the color and viscosity, the viscera itself changed. It would have taken. It would have taken an expert to determine the difference, but at some point the stains became more human. The most human of those being the human, dragging herself naked by her hands and arms across the long desert highway into a ditch. The towering inferno that was once an isekai track illuminated the desert, giving a backlight to the woman dragging herself, raw and bleeding, deeper into the desert towards she knew not what, but away from what was now and forever where it happened. A long stretch of desert road used mainly by lost tourists, isekai trucks, and the occasional tanker full of redacted. A place where nearly 12 years after the incident, the truck still burned and only stopped smoldering recently. But tonight it lit up the desert sky like the fourth, liberating a broken soul. She wasn't Amanda back then. She wouldn't get that name until the paramedics eventually found her. So take solace that the story has a happy ending. So let's just refer to her as the woman. The woman dragging her now human form with her now useless crutched lower body, behind it like an oversized beaver tail. Forced in her undying agony to make decisions about whether to veer left or right to avoid impossible rocks or awakening sleeping rattlers. The buzzards weren't a problem. They were busy gorging themselves on what the woman had left behind on the pavement, dining by firelight, like campers gorging themselves on s'mores. This desolate area of the desert, far removed from where it happened, became where she suffered. A stretch of bloody sand bridging the site of the incident to that damn contemptible cave. A cave the locals either knew to stay far away from or made pilgrimages to regularly. The woman, having been a coyote until she was run over, knew of what lay in that cave. But the fear of the unknown took a backseat to the agonizing pangs of being given new life, only to have it immediately ripped away from you again, and again, and again. Something the isekai truck did to her was keeping her alive, if you could call it living. She was autonomous, she was mobile, and she slumped helplessly in front of a large, cave-like outcropping of stones, lit only from the inside by a flame shade of an unnatural blue. The faint outline of the figure now obscuring the blue light would have evoked fear and hatred in some of the locals, and wails of maddening rapture in others. A spirit, a god to be sure. A coyote god judging from the crude mask it wore. Androgynous in form, muscular and lithe, silver hair cascading down its back, and a wooden coyote mask obscuring its face. A mask the god removed just to get a closer look at the woman kneeling down above her, yet still towering over her, at her position in the dirt. The god recognized the woman. Of course, the god would recognize one of its own subjects even in this new form, a new form that enraged the god initially. The coyote was perfect in flawless form. How could one just discard it so easily? But how, as in why, gave way to how, as in how, as in what sorcery, what technology, what methods could turn a coyote into half a woman. The woman was screaming in pain, deafened to the casual observer by the truck smoldering in the distance. It didn't seem that this was intentional. How could something like this happen? And could she somehow reverse engineer it? Ma'i, the coyote god people would come to know as Sandruby, was a little more brutal and open than most of her trickster kind. She didn't need to deceive the woman in her pain, in her agony, in her desperation. Ma'i just came out and said it. You interest me. Promise your soul to me, and I'll make sure you live through whatever the humans did to you. Refuse, and I'll leave you to bleed out. Deal? Ma'i was bluffing, the trickster in her serving that purpose far better than simply lying to the woman. It didn't know if it was a human that did this to her, but Ma'i was a gambler and liked to play the odds. The woman, screaming in pain to the point of madness, greed. Under duress as any court in the world could argue, but this was the house of Ma'i. And so, removing its mask, the coyote god sang. Its song resonating through the desert, causing all coyotes to cry out as one in perfect unison. This roused the attention of the Night Watch, a cluster of soldiers who patrolled the desert, its own army or militia of sorts. Well, they called themselves an army. The Desert Army. Clad in crimson-red outfits reminiscent of a bygone era, a few soldiers made their way to Ma'i's cave, led by a bouncy figure with curly blonde locks and a rattling saber. The blonde woman, a general by the ornate stars on her shoulders, knelt down immediately next to the woman in front of the now vacant cave. General Beauregard Hassenpfeffer knew that the thing that dwelled in that cave, the thing that neither she nor any of her soldiers had ever seen, was responsible for the perfect cacophony of coyotes. It made sense to rush down with her sortie and see what had transpired. But as soon as she saw the unconscious woman, now no longer crushed and mangled, but merely weak and bony and pale, naked face down in the desert sand, her MO changed. Naked as a jaybird, General Hassenpfeffer openly mused as a couple of medics attended to the woman, the soldiers making their way to the nearby Splatts reservation to rally the people. Naked in front of the cave of that bitch god of a vomit. She's gotta be one of those cultists. The five-star general tactician that she was missed critical information. But on the battlefield, you have to act on the intel you have. And maybe in the back of the general's mind, the thoughts of denying Ma'i another cultist and reforming another one of those freaks on the edge of town bubbled up. But first and foremost, there was a dying woman in the dirt, and the general of the Desert Army knew her priorities. The Desert Army medics did best they could with their battlefield medicine, but knew someone as bruised and beaten up as the woman would need professional medical attention. And so as not to arouse the suspicion of my East cultists, the people of the Splatts reservation were assembled. And as they prayed over the woman and called for proper medical attention, only General Hassenpfeffer turned her gaze to the cave where the blue flame lingered. Raising one arm and pointing to the tip of her saber, wavering a bit in fear, but still pointing with purpose, towards the blue flame whose origin she couldn't see, before turning her attention back to the people of the Splatts reservation. And as the woman who had eventually become known as your faithful Amanda Splatts was carted off to safety, back at the cave with the blue flame, Ma'i knelt down over the gore and viscera left behind after Amanda's healing. The god dipped 2 fingers in Amanda's entrails, swirled them around in the dirt, removed a wooden coyote mask with a free hand, and smeared the gore down the center of her face in an obscure perversion of war paint. The ripped musculature gave way to a weak, pale, and bony frame, and that face formed and twisted itself to the visage of the woman who had just left her soul at Ma'i's feet. Just what is your game? Ma'i, human as she was now, was surprised by General Hassenpfeffer's statement as the general pointed her saber's tip at the god from a safe distance of a good 10 yards. Ma'i turned her attention to the general only briefly, her lips turning up into a revolting, inhuman grin plastered on the face of the woman she just tricked the general into saving. Her attention turned to a small cluster of objects about the naked god's feet. Small trinkets offered by her cultists, their offerings as random as their musings. A deck of cards interested her the most. Of all things to leave a god. My game. What is my game? Ma'i turned her revolting grin to the general, whose arm wavered a bit more. She made eye contact. Ma'i's ruby red eyes, the only difference from Amanda's yellow orbs. Blackjack. I think that's a good place to cut it. I think that's a good place to end the story. I'll go ahead and save. Of course I want to save. No chatting today, I noticed, but that's fine, because with the writing streams, number one, I know there's a whole bunch of shit going on right now. I'm not reading the news. I'm not checking anything until tomorrow morning, because it's no politics in the desert. But it was good to just get my practice in. And if anyone's out there, I don't know how bad it is right now out there, but anyone who just needed a distraction themselves from everything going on, just wanted to stop by and some fiction, I hope I was able to provide. No names to thank today. People stopping by, and I do thank you for that. So I think we'll go ahead and cut it here. 4 p.m. today. Oh no, number one, marshmallows. Please give me marshmallows. I need marshmallows. I'm not above fucking begging for a marshmallow or two, because I'm doing a Zatsudan on Saturday. My first real big Splatsudan. Like, I do them with games and stuff, like talk over games. But this will be the first time, no games, no other distractions, just talking. And if it's going to be like 2 hours and no one shows up to chat, that's going to be fucking awkward. So I'm trying to think of other things to bring up as well. So please click the marshmallow link in the chat. Send me some mallows. I'll answer what I can. I will pre-screen the mallows before the stream, though. And I'll probably turn off mallows like maybe an hour or so before. I'll probably turn off mallows. I work on Saturday, so I'll probably turn off mallows when I get off of work on Saturday. I'm off to, like I was off yesterday, off today. No news, no politics. just sealing myself in until it's time to go to work tomorrow. Place to get away from politics. Place to get away from all the horrible shit happening in the world. Things we can't do anything about. And I hope I've been able to provide that escape. So please check out the Mallows. Please give me Mallows. I will answer questions. Check me out 4 p.m. today when I'm collabing with Miss Cara Malone. Yesterday and today. Like, this is no politics week, but yesterday and today were meant to signify what I am, what I do, and what I love. For any newcomers or anyone who might not have heard of me. Yesterday, I did like 6 hours of games I just love. And then an hour of karaoke last night. I got a fuck ton of... I didn't think people would be watching last night, honestly, karaoke last night. But I got a fuck ton of people stop by. I was so pleasantly surprised. And today, kind of quiet, but that's cool, because let me focus on the writing. Tonight, Cara Malone. I have so many fucking games that I bought over the last couple days. Games and demos and shit. I might Gorilla Thursday, I might Gorilla Friday. I got Guilty Gear R, the final 2D Guilty Gear for like $4. I got the Castlevania DLC for Vampire Saviors for like or Survivors for like $4. I gotta go check for more fucking deals. Because if it's $5 or less, I'll pick it up. I don't mind if it's that dirt cheap. And I know a lot more deals will be coming, so I'm gonna have to check my wish list like every fucking day. And I gotta remind myself that I don't have to play every single thing I buy on stream. I don't. I can just play shit for me. So, Lurkers, VOD Gang, Second Screen Saints, anyone who just needed to get away from whatever's going out there today, thank you for stopping by. Those were some good fucking jalapeno poppers, man. Real fucking good. Not too spicy. I don't like them too hot, but they weren't too hot. They gave you a little kick, and that was about it, because of the cream cheese in them. So, I'm just rambling. I'm just fucking rambling. Malone's not till... It's like 10:40 here right now. Malone's not till 4 o'clock. Now, heads up, I may not be able to stream my perspective, because Buckshot Roulette is kind of chunky. I'm gonna try, because I found a way to run it in OpenGL, but all the red disappears when I do that. All the red disappears, but I'm able to play the game and not be horribly chunky. I hope it works. Hey, thank you for stopping by, Cara. I told you at the end of Desert Chronicle that we would do a stream at your place. But all the streams we've done since, I had to stream too, because the King of Fighters one, that was my idea, and you went ahead and graciously let me host it. And Keep Talking and No One Explodes, both you and Sandruby had to stream your perspectives, because, you know, if one screen's just going to be reading the instructions the entire time. But yeah, I got a lot of shit. I will do Gorillas as... The reason I want to go as hard as I do this week is because after this week, I'm a back office. I love streaming so much. I got so much shit I want to do. But for my health, and considering that these streams are going a lot longer than I originally planned, I gotta start pacing myself. So I'm going fucking hard this week, and then I'm gonna start backing off. Like, maybe just 3 streams. Like, I know I want to continue doing something on Wednesdays. I I know I want to continue doing Splatterday, and I want to continue streaming on Sundays. Oh, by the way, anyone who missed it earlier this week, originally this Sunday was going to be Darkest Dungeon. No, I mean, originally this Saturday was going to be Dicey Dungeons. But I did Dicey Dungeons last Sunday because it's been so long since I played it. So it's going to be Darkest Dungeons this Sunday as usual. But it's going to be 7 a.m. on Sunday. 7 a.m. because I've got an appointment at like noon. And I have to start getting ready at like 11. So get your usual 4 hours of dungeons in. And other than that, just stay tuned to the space. Thank you for hanging out with me. I really want to do more of this. Being creative, singing, writing. It doesn't do numbers at all. But it's stuff I fucking love. I think I'm gonna have to start doing that from now on. There are the streams that are for me, and there are the streams that are for you. And these couple days are gonna be streams for me. And if you like what I'm putting down, throw me a mallow, throw me a like, comment, subscribe. Put in your comment section below, comment, and rate, and hit the bell, and turn the crank, and snap the plank, and kick the ball down the hole, how does it go? You turn the crank, you snap the plank. Fuck, it's gonna piss me off until I know what it is. It's gonna fucking piss me off until I remember what it is. I gotta look that. How does it fucking go? How does it fucking go? Just turn the crank and stop the plank and boot the marble right down the chute. Now watch it roll and hit the pole and knock the ball in the rub-a-dub tub, which flips the man into the pan. The trap is set. Here comes the net. Mouse trap, I guarantee, is the craziest trap you'll ever see. Yeah. I don't know why I do this shit. I don't know why I do this shit. I don't know why you watch this shit. But I'm happy you do. So I'm gonna go not watch the news. I'm gonna go play some games. I'm gonna rest a little. Grab a drink. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning. Please stop by at 4 o'clock for Buckshot Roulette multiplayer. Carmelo. I'm your faithful Amanda Splatts. I fucking love this 3D, man. I fucking love it. And this is the Amanda Splatts Project. Good night.